Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, in this video I will finally be talking about long-term capabilities, semi-long-term capabilities of the new BMW R1300 RS. I released a couple of weeks ago a sort of sporty test on this bike because this is the sports version of the RS. It comes in several different guises, which we'll talk about, but this is the more sporty variant. So we did another video where we tested out this bike's sporty potential. I will try not to say sporty too many times in this video, but I did a video a couple of weeks ago where I tested out the agility of this machine, let's say. In this test we're going to be giving it a bit more of a long distance test. So I've got a couple of 100-mile trip to do on this morning. I'm going to minimise all my stops so I can really make the most and see what the seat comfort's like. We can see what sort of range we get out of the tank, because I've just brimmed this and reset the trip meter. And we're also going to go and discover the UK's or potentially the world's largest Mr. Whippy ice cream. So we're heading down to Newton's Corner down near Weymouth, where supposedly the largest ice cream in the UK and potentially the world. Chopsy, roll the intro. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I have done another video on the R1300 RS. I'll link it up the top. On that video I did test out the sporty behaviour on that machine, and one thing which was apparent from that video, and it's still a bit apparent in this one, is there was a lot of wind noise. Now, as you can see, I've added my little additional spoiler to the top of the screen on this bike, and I have to say that has improved things. But setting off this morning, listen to it right now, I'm not sure it has improved it that much. There's still a bit of noise around your sort of shoulder area on this bike. I think the wind could be hitting the very bottom of the lip of my helmet. Now, you know, screens are very personal. You know, I'm 6'2", depends where you sit on the bike. And I found this in the past with the RS actually. It does make a little bit of wind noise around your shoulder area. But normally, you know, a little screen like that does improve things, and it has improved it, but I'm going to say it's not absolutely perfect still. There's still a little bit of wind noise, but it's definitely improved things, and I think a little add-on screen is an absolute must if you want to do a few more miles on this bike. Now, this is the sports version. I will not mention that word again in this video, and that, you know, it's absolutely necessary, and the S version of this bike comes with a smaller screen. So if you get the touring version of this bike, you get a larger screen. Okay, now another thing to address from the previous video, as I said, on this S model you cannot put any hard luggage on it, which is true, you cannot, and a lot of people have been into their dealers and reported back that the dealer has said you can't do it on the configurator, but you may be able to do it by just adding it as accessories. The thing with this bike, the panniers come with like the central locking and the courtesy lights, so you can't have all of those accessories on the sports version, but they may be able to rig up some luggage but without all of the lights and everything. So it could be possible, but you will pay extra for that, and you'll probably pay through the nose a little bit as well because you're going outside of the BMW packs. But it could potentially be possible to add some luggage to this bike, but it may cost you a considerable amount of money. So this test is really going to be to see what this bike is like, you know, on a bit of longer distance, what sort of mileage you can expect from it. So I've got it's going to be about 100 miles, 90 miles to get to Weymouth, where Newton's Corner is, just like the other side of Weymouth. So it's going to be about 100 miles there, same coming back. So we should use more or less a full tank of fuel. The predicted range, because I've just filled this bike up and reset the trip, is 210 miles. And I have been using this bike quite a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I can report back that actually the fuel is very good on this machine. It's not a thirsty bike. Even if you give it a bit of welly, it's pretty economical. So I could be expecting this to do more or less there and back on one tank. possibly. It's a 17 litre tank, so it's not even a massive tank. It's only 17 litres, you know, it's not 20 litres. So that's pretty reasonable. If we can get 200 miles out of this, I will be impressed. But I think it could be possible. Also, this trip is going to be sort of more or less all back roads, no motorways, all on the back roads, unless we're running late and I need to come back on the motorway. But the plan is it's going to be sort of a back road test. There's going to be lots of up and down, some twisties thrown in as well, so we can make the most of that sporty cat. I said it again. Make the most of this agile version. And at the end of it, we get to eat a massive ice cream. So the handling of this bike is very, very good. You know, the suspension gives you plenty of feedback. I've actually just got this in the road mode at the moment. If I change it to dynamic, you know, it adjusts all of that suspension, the throttle response. And but I found that the road mode, I hope you can hear me, I might have to slow down a little bit because there's still a lot of wind noise, which is a bit disappointing. But the road mode, the suspension is still quite firm, so you still get a lot of feedback from the road. So with this athletic version of this motorcycle, everything is dialed to be sports. I'm going to say sports, I'm sorry everybody, I'll try and minimise my use of the word sporty and sports, I promise. But on this sports version, you're really getting a lot of feedback from the road. You know, you're not just gliding over the tarmac like you would do on a lot of sports tourers. You know, you'd lose that feel from the tarmac. But on this version, you do get that feedback. And with this sports pack, you know, you get sports suspension. There's already too many sports in this, which is longer travel. So you can throw it around a little bit more. And actually the forks on this, something I forgot to mention in my previous video, this is the first motorcycle, this new R range, to have adjustable spring rates in the forks as well. You know, there's adjustable spring rates in the rear shocks. So I'll show you in a minute. There's tiny little reservoirs on the bottom of the fork leg which are electronic, which actually adjust the spring rates a little bit. So yeah, it's quite clever, the suspension on this bike, but it's undeniably there's a very precise racy feel from the tarmac. It's not a glide over everything, you can't feel what you're riding over. You get a lot of feedback in a good way. You know, it won't crash over the bumps, you never blow through the suspension. You hit a big bump, it glides over it, but you get a lot of feedback. That's my point. You get a lot of feedback with this version. Now, I haven't tried the more touring setup, and that may be a lot softer and it will glide over the potholes a bit easier, but with this one you do feel very much connected to the tarmac, which I think is a good thing on the more sporty bike. Can't help myself. So we're just coming into Stockbridge now. So my route for this little ride is Winchester, Stockbridge, Salisbury, Wareham, and then sort of Weymouth. So there's some quite nice sort of A roads as part of that run. No motorways. Oh dear. Okay, looks like the road's closed. That is not what we wanted. Hello, mate.
Got parking on that patio if you want it there.
Oh, is there? Okay. What's the best way to go round this? You have to go up and round?
You don't want to come to the
No, not really.
You can go up it at the moment.
Oh, can I go at the moment? Yeah, alright, brilliant stuff. Thanks very much. Cheers. How can I go through? I don't actually want to stop. So yeah, we haven't closed the road yet. That's a bit of luck, because that would have added a 20-minute extension to my trip. So I don't know what's going on here, but this is Stockbridge. So I've been going, I guess, for about 40 minutes, something like that. Comfort so far, absolutely lovely. No issues with this seat at the moment. Still feels as fresh. My body's as fresh as when I got on it 40 minutes ago. I've now got a predicted 164 mile range, so that has dropped quite a lot. I have been given a little bit of beanage, but so far it's been absolutely lovely. Absolutely lovely. I mean, I do find that the gear shift on this bike is quite tight, and I mentioned this on my first video. The pink cake tent. Ooh, this would be a good way to get some food, wouldn't it? I do find the gear shift on this bike quite tight, and I mentioned this in my other video. You know, this bike's now got, I think, around just over 600 miles on it, so I've done a good couple of hundred miles on this bike, and the gear shift's getting a little bit looser, but it's still quite a tight shift. The ASA is available on this bike, so if you want the automatic option, that is possible on this one, and because the BMW system you still actually get the gear lever, I'd be quite tempted, because that would make the shift, obviously you're not actually moving mechanical parts then, and that would make the shift much softer. It's quite a tight gearbox, I would say, on this. So the ASA could be a good thing on the BMW system, and you do get to keep the actual shift lever, so all you're losing is the clutch really. So that could be a good option for this machine. So just coming into Salisbury now. It's now 9 o'clock. I've been going for an hour. I don't know how many miles I've done. I have reset the trip, but you have to go fanning through the menus to find out the trip. But yeah, I guess I've covered about 40 miles, something like that. So this is just coming into Salisbury. I just want to talk a little bit about sort of the ergonomics and the comfort of the bike while I'm going a bit slower, in case the wind noise is a problem. I have just had to stop and put in my earplugs. You know, I don't wear earplugs all the time, but on this bike I think you would have to invest in a set of earplugs if you don't have any, because of that wind noise. But once you've got the earplugs in, I found it absolutely fine. But ergonomics on this, as I mentioned in the first video, the riding position is a little bit sporty. So you've got a little bit of weight on your wrists. Like I said, I've been going an hour, I've got no discomfort from that. My feet are a little bit behind my hips, so again the feet position is quite sporty. So, but this does have the adjustable rear sets on it, but these are sort of set back but as low as possible, and I think it's quite a good place to have them. Also with these rear sets, morning fellas, is you get a metal sort of gear shift. You know, I've been moaning a little bit about the weight of the gear change on this bike, and I'm wondering if that is to do with the rear sets, because it's just a metal, you know, it's not rubberized, and it's not particularly wide. I'll show you sort of pictures of it while we're talking, and that could be part of the problem why I'm finding the shift so a little bit awkward than, say, compared to how I remember it being on the GS. Could be due to the rear set, so not sure about that. That's just my sort of thoughts as I've been riding. But overall comfort, you know, again, the seat, I'm still in perfect comfort, and I do suffer with a bit of a sore body. You know, I do find seats do give me a sore bum, so if I can ride this without getting too much of a sore ass, then I think most people will find it really comfortable. I seem to suffer with sore bodies. Actually, we're sticking this way. I think where we're going to go now. Yeah, Bournemouth to Ringwood, that's what we want. But yeah, so far, perfect comfort. Okay, I've had to stop because my battery ran out on the GoPro. No other reason than that I had to stop. And I had a little wee while I was here as well. So, a couple of things to point out while we're off the bike. That is the adjustable spring rates for the front suspension. So you've got a canister there and the electronics going into here. So there's some sort of spring adjustment. It's not too much about it, but it's basically, I think it's the first conventional looking fork which has some spring rate adjustment to it. It's a sort of let's call it sort of preload adjustment. Obviously not much because it's all very small. Here is that gear lever I've been talking about, and you can see it's quite a small metal, and I'm wondering if that is part of the reason I'm struggling with the gear shift a little bit, and that you can move that and turn it, and perhaps if I moved it in a bit, or it is quite in, I think it needs to be closer to my boot. But maybe I should move I think it could be due to the rear set, so I'm struggling so much with the gear shift on this. My big size 12 clumpers. Let's have a quick little sit rep of where we are. So to get to all the business, we've got 100 miles range left. Half a tank of fuel basically. Trip 1, I've done 83 miles. Wow, 83 miles already. I don't think it's going to be as much as that. Yeah, so we've done 83 miles. We've used half a tank of fuel. So that isn't actually too bad, is it? So that's what I was saying before the battery ran out back there. Don't know how much of it you heard, but the ergonomics of the bike is lovely. You know, sort of the weather protection you have. I love this little corner here. This drops away as you go over the top. That's a brilliant bend, that one. But the weather protection, it looks like we may get a chance to test out the weather protection at this rate. It actually looks like it might rain in a minute. So we will get to test that weather protection potentially. I hope not, because the ice cream man might not be there if it's raining. And I want to test out the world's largest Mr. Whippy. But anyway, this is coming into Wareham now. I think we've got about another 20 miles until we hit Weymouth, and we've got 99 miles range still. So the fuel has actually not been too bad, and I have not been hanging around on this. I have been given this a proper little workout. So actually it's really good on fuel, this bike. Much better than yes has double R. Right, speak to you again when we hit Weymouth and get tucking into that the world's biggest Mr. Whippy. I know you've stuck around a long time. I've been jabbing on about the bike. It's now time to talk about Mr. Whippies. The important stuff, the ice cream. Let's get there. Turn you back on in a minute. Coming into Weymouth now, we've got the old chalk horse on the right there. I don't know if you quite see it, with all the built up. There it is. Very briefly. And then down here you'll see Weymouth Cove. There it is, there's Weymouth. And Portland Bill is that sort of island bit, I think. The other side of Weymouth. Well, Newton's Cove is where we're going to. Not Portland Bill, I think it's around the other back side of Weymouth, which I don't normally go to, so I'm going to have to, I have to sat nav it. One of the things a few people mentioned from my last video is that, oh, I didn't talk about the price. The reason for that is because obviously the price varies on this bike dramatically depending what spec it is and what you add on it as part of the configurator. So I think this starts at around about £13,500 for the base one with no extras. I think the base one you do get some electronic suspension, I believe, so that's quite nice, but you don't get the quick shifter, you don't get heated grips. You've got to add that as packs. So this full M Sport version, you know, with the rear sets, this one's got the Akropovich on it as well, the optional, the chromed black downpipes. I priced this one up on the configurator and I think it was just shy of £20,000. So by the time you add on all of your extras, you know, obviously that price does increase considerably. So it's very much dependent on what extras you have, what you add, what packs to the price of this bike. But starting from about 13.5 for a reasonably spec'd one with, you know, the heated grips, quick shifter, a few bits and bobs that you're really gonna want on the bike, you're talking 16,000–17,000 realistically to get one where you want it. You know, if you want the adaptive cruise, you could probably add on a little bit extra to that. If you want the touring packs, you know, with panniers, you can add a bit extra on top of that again. So basically the price is from about 13.5 up to about 20,000, or maybe slightly over 20,000 depending what you want on it. So that's why I didn't really mention price in the first video, because it varies wildly depending what accessories you want. So it's 2 hours, about 2 hours 20 minutes I've been riding for, and I've done 103 miles and I'm in perfect comfort. I'm starting to feel my bum a little bit, but not in an uncomfortable way. You know, it's this seat, despite being the sports seat and heated and all of that, it's extremely comfortable, this bike. Very, very comfortable. For me, not need to get off after 2¼ hours, you know, it's a really comfortable machine. So I'm really impressed with the comfort. So we're looking for a sign for Newton's Cove. That's where they do the biggest Mr. Whippy in the UK, and I think potentially the world, because is Mr. Whippy just a UK thing? If you're not aware what Mr. Whippy is, it's like a soft ice cream which they make out of like a mix. They add like milk to a mix, or maybe water, and it goes in the machine, gets churned up. It's like a soft ice cream that comes out of one of those. Do you have those outside of Europe? I guess you must. But Mr. Whippy, I think this was invented, Mr. Whippy was invented by Margaret Thatcher's dad. Now, I think I'm right in saying this. Mr. Whippy was invented by Margaret Thatcher's dad, because I remember his dad, her dad even, used to have like a corner shop, and I think he invented Mr. Whippy. So whatever you think of Margaret Thatcher and the Tories from the 80s, if you're from up north, if you're from a mining village, I suspect you've got a very firm opinion on Margaret Thatcher and the Tories. My missus is from a mining town in Doncaster, so believe you me, she's got some very strong opinions on Margaret Thatcher. But her dad did invent Mr. Whippy. So come on, you've got to cut us some slack. We're talking Mr. Whippy here. I know for some, you know, all the Mr. Whippy in the world wouldn't make up for the closure of those coal mines. It's not really a joking matter, even after 40 years later, or whatever it was. I know people have still got very strong opinions. Oh, let's try and get through here. There we go. But here is Weymouth seafront, and I think Newton's Cove is over the back, so I think I've still got a little way to go. And I'm going to have to pull over, I think, and do some sat-naving, or I'm going to be riding around aimlessly trying to find this ice cream. So I'll turn you back on a minute when I get there, and I got my hands on this lovely big ice cream. I can't wait. You wait till you see the size of this thing. Well, I found this very nice scenic spot. This is Newton's Cove. Absolutely gorgeous, really, really pretty. And there is an ice cream place here, which is part of this cottage, which is unfortunately closed. It's a lovely spot. An ice cream really would finish this trip off, but I fear it's not to be. I fear it's not to be. So we're not going to be able to sample these biggest Mr. Whippies in the UK, which is very disappointing. Let's go and have a look at the chalet. I think this is it here. I think it's also cash only as well. So that's obviously a one-man or woman operation, operated from the cottage here. And this is it. This is the place which sells the biggest Mr. Whippies in the UK, and also potentially some of the best views to eat them by as well. But unfortunately for this one, looks like they are shut. So I've come 100 miles to find the biggest Mr. Whippy in the UK, and they are closed. So, oh well, I guess there'll be an opportunity to test this again later. But there it is. If you want to find the biggest Mr. Whippy in the UK, Newton's Cove, unsubstantiated because he's shut. I've not been able to sample one, but here's some photos that I found online of these ice creams. It takes some finding as well. I'll tell you, it takes some finding. You've got a bit of a walk. You can't park next to it. And there's no opening hours online, so he opens when he wants, so bit of a nightmare to find this place. And I've not even got to test one. But I did test the bike, so I hope you've enjoyed the video. I certainly have, and I'll speak to you on the next one, and maybe we'll come back and we'll try and find these biggest Mr. Whippies in the UK. Maybe with Bruce a bit later on, but thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers. There we go, the Salt Shack, which is on the east side of the promenade at Weymouth. Even though the world's largest ice cream shop was shut, they're going to see what they can do. They can see if they could break a record here. Oh, it's impressive. Look at the skill. Look at the skill.
Oh my god. That's good, that's good. What this?
Yes. Oh my word. Wow, look at that. Look, that has to be some sort of record. We're going to have to hold it like that. We could get messy in a minute. So it may not be the official world record for the largest ice cream in the UK, but I think they've done a damn fine job. So that is the Saltwater Shack. Thank you very much for sorting me out and indulging me in a massive ice cream. Look at that bad boy. I couldn't leave without an ice cream, and the Saltwater Shack down at the east side of Weymouth has sorted me out with a big one. Look at the size of that beauty. It's melting everywhere. I've got to crack on. I'll speak to you later.